So you guys join me from behind the wheel of my Porsche 944 in a blisteringly hot Northern Virginia day. I apologize for my sweaty face, but for a car with no AC and 90 degrees with a black interior, I'm going to liquefy pretty much. And oh my God, filming this video because the heat has been so hard. I've had numerous takes so far. And the latest one, I wasn't able to turn on my camera because the battery was too hot. So I just had to pull over at a gas station and dip my camera is waterproof, but I dipped it in some window washing liquid for about a minute. Took that out, and result, I am now able to come to you guys. So the video today is about my 944, obviously since I'm behind the wheel, but mainly it's because a big, terrible, awful thing happened to the 944 a couple weeks ago. As you guys know, I've gone through this car with a fine-tooth comb. New timing belt, balance shaft belt, water pump, oil cooler seals, coolant lines, all sorts of new sensors, all new interior, all new paint. This thing has the whole 9 yards done to it, and I was getting ready to fully enjoy Porsche ownership over the summer, take her on some nice mountain cruises, take her to every single car show I could find, and really have some fun with it. And also, when driving the car, it felt awesome. I never, ever thought there would be a clutch issue. The clutch felt great when I drove it. Clutch itself, and I've had a Porsche specialist drive this car. He says the clutch and transmission feel perfect. And then I realized that my clutch blew up. Now, the reason I said realized is because it's actually been blown since I bought the car. I didn't realize this at all. I was ignorant. I didn't bother to look into the issue. And the issue was whenever I hit the gas, when I was in gear, the car would buck back and forth a little bit. There's a little bit of drivetrain backlash. I never cared because I paid $2,250 for the car. I was like, it's old. There's probably just some added play over all the years and miles and whatnot. And I just dismissed it as a minor problem. My dad, when he drove the car, was like, Luke, you should probably get that checked out. And me being young and stupid, I'm like, no, Dad, don't worry about that. It's fine. Oh, whatever. I'll just go ahead and do paint and all sorts of other really expensive things without figuring out what this is. And it bit me in the ass. Repairing it cost $3,400. And honestly, I think that's why you don't see very many of these on the road anymore, is because people bought these things in the 80s and in the early 2000s when their clutches went and these things were absolutely rock bottom in value, and they realized the replacement cost of the clutch was more than the value of the car. They're like, screw it, and they went to the junkyard. And I mean, honestly, I don't really blame a lot of them because that is stupid expensive. What we're gonna do now is I'm gonna pull over and we're gonna talk about what exactly went wrong with the clutch in my 944. So you guys now join me from a random neighborhood cul-de-sac so I can show you guys exactly what went wrong with the clutch in my 944. But before I do that, I need to put on some super protective gloves to protect my hands while I show you guys this clutch. Oh man, it's always hard to stick your hands in these things when it's a million degrees out. I apologize for the sweat buildup on my face and for my glasses constantly sliding around, but it's really hot and I have no AC. But this right here is the clutch disc that was in my car. Now this disc is dated, it's dated June of 1985, which means that this is the original clutch that came in the car. And for those of you that don't know a whole lot about Porsche 944 clutches, one thing you're going to have to know is that this clutch uses a rubber center, which you can see right here, instead of spring centers. Now this rubber center is to absorb vibration when you're changing gears, getting on and off the gas, and just generic driving. It absorbs vibrations so that way you don't feel it when you're driving along. Now they used rubber just because it creates a smoother clutch engagement when you're changing gears other than a spring-centered clutch. However, these rubber-centered clutches don't last as long as spring-centered ones for one big reason. Rubber deteriorates. 32-year-old rubber starts to look like this. You see that? Rubber used to go there. It's all gone. It completely deteriorated. It fell apart. And one thing that you gotta know with these clutches is that the rubber center will die before the friction material dies. You can see the friction material here, it's not even down to the rivets. I have plenty of friction material left on this clutch, which is why when I was driving around, it felt perfectly normal. I didn't think that there was a clutch issue because the clutch engaged fine, gear shifts were smooth, and everything seemed hunky-dory. It was only when I was getting on and off the gas that I would get a jerk back and forth in the drivetrain. And that was because the rubber center here had deteriorated. Bits of rubber had broken off, and you can see that I can actually spin the center hub of the clutch, and I'm hitting these limp home tabs right here. You can see that it will hit and contact those limp home tabs that will then engage and enable the clutch to transmit power when the rubber center disintegrates. So basically, I've been driving on the limp home tabs ever since I bought the car in September, just living my ignorance is bliss lifestyle, not knowing what was wrong with the car, only to realize that it was the clutch. So basically, when you engage the clutch and you're just driving along the road and you hit the gas, when the clutch is engaged and you're about to send power through that clutch plate, what happens is the center of the clutch spins until it hits those limp home tabs, and then the power can be sent through, which was causing that jerk. So, you have that magnified going through the whole car. It's not pretty. So that's pretty much what happened with the clutch itself. Right here, I have a couple more parts that added to my pain and misery. These are reference sensors, and yeah, you can see that. The rubber was completely deteriorated. That's not good. These cost not a whole lot of money online, but to have them same day delivered to the shop, it was a bit more expensive. But other than those two things, I am good to go. Everything's nice and in the car, and now it's time to hop back behind the wheel so I can finish up the review and the video. So now that you guys understand exactly what went wrong with the clutch in my car, it's time to talk a bit about how I got the job done. Now, you guys are probably thinking that I DIY'd it and did it myself, and originally that was the plan. What I wanted to do was rent out garage space at Fort Myer, which is a military base, and I can actually do that because I'm a dependent on my dad, who is a retired Air Force, so I actually have a military ID and all that stuff. So I can get on there and I can rent out space and do the job myself. However, I work, so I'd only be able to go over there maybe one day a week to work on the car, and all the other times I'm paying like $45 a day to store the thing there. That would have added up real quick, especially since I don't have a lot of experience, so it would have been a trial by error job. I could have done it, it just would have taken forever, and the storage fees would have racked up, and it would have ended up costing more money than it would have cost me to have these guys do it. The guys that I had do it were IMA Motor Work down in Chantilly. No, they haven't paid me to say anything about them, but I must say the experience there was absolutely awesome. They really know their cars. Ivan over there really knows his stuff with Porsches. They had a bunch of 944s in the shop, and they did my car in one day. This thing is booked at 18 book hours to change the clutch on this car, and they did it in one day. That was absolutely awesome. So I'm super happy I got it done through them. They made it a pretty pain-free experience. And I must say that driving the car now with a Sachs spring-centered clutch, I didn't go for that rubber-centered BS. I didn't want it to degrade in another 10 years and fall apart on me. I wanted something that would last forever. And yeah, the spring-centered is a little bit more aggressive on engagement, but for me, I prefer that because this is a sporty car. I wouldn't call it a race car. It's a 944, it's not a race car, but it's something that I'm using to drive fast, and having that more sporty, more grippy, bitey clutch is a lot of fun. Of course, the clutch is newer, so it's going to be more bitey by nature, but I mean, I'm super happy I went with the spring-centered clutch. They also replaced both of my reference sensors, crank position and reference sensors. They also went in there, did a new slave cylinder. Of course, they resurfaced the flywheel. They put in a new pressure plate. Of course, all throwout bearing, all the things that you would generally do when you do the clutch job on this car. And the reason the clutch job on this car is so damn expensive is because of the way that the 944 is laid out. Now, you have the transmission in the back, and that is for better weight distribution. This car is 50-50 weight distribution, but you have the bell housing right behind the engine where the clutch is, which then sends its power through a torque tube to the transmission, which means to access the bell housing, you need to drop the tranny and take out the torque tube, which means jacking the car up in the air, taking a lot of time and therefore a lot of money. And for those of you that are gonna bitch and moan about the $3,400 labor rate, oh, that's way too much money, you never should have paid that, you're literally a moron, what are you even doing with your life, yada, yada, yada. For you guys, labor rates in Nova, where I live, are stupid expensive. I mean $150 plus an hour for labor. These guys were actually charging $120 an hour in labor, which is less than a lot of the quotes I got. A lot of the quotes I got were $3,500 up. And I did do some quote shopping. These guys gave me an awesome quote, and I'm very, very happy that I went with them in the long run. And God, does this car drive so good. I'm gonna say it now, I think I might be able to just drive this thing this summer. I don't want to do anything else to it. I had them check so much stuff. I just got this thing almost to pass inspection. It failed on a couple electrical issues that I literally just finished squaring away about an hour ago. But I mean, after going through the whole thing, I think I might be good to just drive this thing through the summer. I'm praying I can just drive this thing through the summer. I've done so much work to this car. I've learned a lot, but I've spent way too much money. This isn't a mommy and daddy funded project. I mean, I have been paying for absolutely everything on this car, and it's been a lot of work, but luckily I've been able to save a lot in my past, and I've been working a couple jobs. I have the money to pay for all this stuff on this car while I'm still in college, which is great. I'm very fortunate for that. But honestly, I don't want to be throwing any more money down the toilet because honestly, while this car is great, I'm not going to see any of this money again until a long, long time from now if I ever decide to sell the thing. So hopefully I can just stay behind the wheel, enjoy some awesome Porsche motoring. Definitely more videos on this car coming up. Drop comments on what type of content you want to see with this car. Do you want us to take it on like a 2 or 3 day trip and film that? Do you want us to drive it cross country? Is there a mod you'd like to see on the car? Anything like that, please drop a comment, because as we're getting closer to the end of the restoration on this car, we need to start coming up with new awesome things to do with the Project 944. And oh my God, am I excited. Yeah, I've only had this car for 8 months. Yeah, I've done so much stuff to it, but the journey is just beginning. I don't even know what I'm gonna end up doing with this car, but man, I'm excited to share that journey with you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'm glad you guys now get to know a little bit more about the pain and misery that is 944 ownership, except for when you're behind the wheel and you get to drive it, and the biggest smile comes on my face because this car is awesome and worth absolutely everything I've done to it. Yeah, I'm about 10 grand in this car now, 10 grand. I could have got myself a pretty clean one for 10 grand, but I wouldn't have had the experience I've had. I have put my blood, sweat, and tears literally into this car, and if I just bought a car for 10 grand, it would have been bought, not built. I built this thing, I'm super happy with it. It just creates such a more satisfying experience every time I hop behind the wheel, just knowing that this is something I've worked on, something I've put so much effort into. I love this car, guys. Yeah, the clutch was a setback, but whatever, that's life. It's Porsche ownership. This is a 33-year-old car, shit happens. And yeah, that basically sums up this video. I am dying right now. I've basically turned into a human puddle, so I'm gonna go enjoy the luxury of AC since I don't have it in this car. With that, I'm gonna tune out. I'll catch you guys next video.